And welcome to episode 235 of this Noclip podcast. It's a Crewcast. The whole crew is here. We're all here, folks. Ready and accounted for. Sergeant Jesse Garasha, stand to attention. Sir.
Yes, sir. I'm here to report gaming. That's all I've got to report for this session.
How's the Canadian Army doing these days?
Bad. It's okay. We're doing a lot more spending now, so it's okay. But we do still ride horses at the federal level, so it's actually pretty cool.
Is that what a Mountie is?
That's what they mount, the horses.
They mount the horses. That's why they're called Mounties, because they mount the horses. But who mounts the Mounties, Jeremy Jane?
I feel like any answer I could give on this would be a bad direction for this discussion immediately.
It would be homophobic, probably.
I was going to say their wives, so...
Or bestiality, or... Yeah. I guess you could just go play it safe. Frank, does anyone ever ride those horse girls? Like, do...
Oh.
I say that in the...
Not yet.
I
don't know.
Yeah, is that season
like
2?
We're working on the technology.
I know one man who's up to the task.
I'm sure Kojima's figuring out a way
yes,
to, like,
that's right.
the opposite.
Yeah.
He's
that's
scanning
what OD's
celebrities
all
into his
about.
games.
That's how you
got
play
a
it.
big, yeah, it's a 3D printer to take the girls and print them in reality. Maybe.
But they should ride horses, really, because they are just girls running. That's the... Imagine how fast... Imagine if they were riding... Are there real horses in the... What's the game called again?
Uma Musume.
Is there real horses in that universe?
I don't think so. I think I was looking into the lore last night. I think it's like in this universe, it's like horses of previous years have been reborn in the spirit of girls.
Okay.
So it's like, yeah. So all the horses are like gone. I don't know what it's like. Evangelion.
We don't need them
like,
anymore.
Yeah.
We needed them for like almost all of like post-agriculture human and probably a bit of hunter-gathering human civilization. Horses were really important. But then when somebody made like the first like Volkswagen, that was it.
Yeah,
the horses were like...
As soon as Henry Ford came around, horses became irrelevant. And
yeah.
That's the story of Uma Musume. Do you think they have like, because the horse girls are part horse but mostly human, do you think they would ride four-legged creatures that are mostly horse but have like 4 human hands instead of hooves or something?
I hate this. Stop
that would be
thinking about that.
That would be. I feel like that'd be a great way of just constantly breaking your hands. Is if you had a horse on top of them, a horse's weight, like a face of a guy. You know, I'm sure. You know, we're not exactly pro generative AI here, but if I was going to make something weird, that might be it.
I'll draw you a horse with a man's face.
Yeah,
that'd be.
We have
good.
the technology.
I just like the idea that the horses were like, shit, we're out of luck. In what way will society still find a use for us? And they were like anime girls. That's how we make sure that we are forever, no matter what happens, politically, culturally, there will always be space for waifus.
That's
true. It's one of the universal things. It's like if you want to get a job that lasts forever, you work in a funeral, and now you work as a horse racing girl.
You work in a funeral?
There's only so many options. Yeah, like a funeral home.
Oh, a funeral home. Okay, yeah. You don't work at a funeral. Like you're not like, selling hot. Like you got one of those hot dog carts or something.
Oh, that's what I do. You guys don't do that on the weekends? It's great extra cash. Yeah, get your peanuts here. I start throwing them at the people doing the eulogy.
You got one of those long sticks just with candy floss bags hanging out of it all the time.
Yeah,
all that good stuff.
They love that.
Not to infinitely prolong the Uma Musume discussion preamble, but do you think the Mounties in the world of Uma Musume are just horse girls with
Canadian horse girls?
Yeah, that's going to make the job really difficult though. Again, it's such a step down from just having a horse. You have a horse, you're high in the sky, you can move faster, you can move further. I'm once again assuming that these horse girls are just teenage girls. Like not exactly, this isn't me getting on my sort of men's rights platform, but like,
it sounds like it.
I think, is it chauvinistic to say that a horse is more powerful than a teenage girl in many ways? I'm not asking him to like do complex mathematical problems or logic problems. Horses notoriously are terrible at those. They just, they're good at eating apples and jumping over.
Horses are good at counting. That's the same as doing math,
they?
right?
They're good at counting?
Yeah.
What's your evidence for this?
Yeah.
I've watched Shrek 2, and at one point, Donkey, who turns into a horse, is great at counting.
Was he not good when he was a donkey?
He was maybe also good when he was a donkey.
Okay, that's a problem. All right.
Eddie Murphy is just good at math, I feel like.
Oh, my Lord. Well, you know who's good at math? Or maybe bad at math?
I got us out of here.
Because they keep giving us too much money. Who knows? Who knows? Yeah. All of our incredible Battle Pass holders who support us over at patreon.com/noclip, including, see if you can find the new name, Lovepreet, Ute, Dwayne the Rock Lobster, Anthony Thomas, Nico Passateri, It's a me, Ferrario. Anthony Thomas has just gotten residual Italian because of the other two. I just did it in Italian and I couldn't help myself because I knew I was about to cross the border. Senator Armstrong, Redredge, Harry Flanagan, Juice, Arno, Matt Pearson, James Brown, Mark Rojas, Copernicus, Tucker Morgan, David McGarry, Goddison, Sven Huster, Pez, John Akers, Ewan Nate, Tim Robinson, Forrest Pruitt, Raquel, Jonathan Kremen, Eric Hamilton Schneider, Christoph Fatui, Cameron Laird, Zachary Snader, Alex Goucher, George Sakotis, Jacob Godserve, Enthea Jen, James Med, Tohir Tiliev, and Ryson. Thank you all for supporting us over at patreon.com/noclip. We're about to do some shenanigans this month. If you want to join the free Patreon of patreon.com/secret tape, it might be a good time to go do that. We're going to start doing stuff over there. Doing stuff. Can't say much more than that. Maybe rebranding this podcast. Lots of weird stuff's going to happen this month with all that madness. And there'll be some Noclip updates as well. Patreon show will be out next week as well. I'm looking forward to recording that. Actually, it should be out this week. Sorry, I forgot we're recording on a Tuesday. We always record on a Tuesday. Yeah, later this week. By the time you're listening to this, it might already be up. All right, we got some games to talk about today. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4, The Alters. Jeremy has been playing Death Stranding, not the new one, the retro Death Stranding. But first of all, Frank, we've started. We clip-clopped in here on the back of some fantastic anime video games, so why not keep the good party going? How was Animation Expo, known colloquially in LA as Anime Expo?
It is, and as I've been telling my Japanese friends, it's like Comic-Con in LA. Comic-Con is the giant Tokyo thing. That was the equation. Anime Expo 2025 was really fun. I've been going to Anime Expo for almost 20 years,
wow.
And every time I go, it's under like a different context. So it's I mean, this year
by different context. What do you mean? Like you have? It seems like you are always opening new fandom doors.
Yes. Well, there's also been times where it's like I'll go with different girlfriends and I'll be dragged to all their things, or like doing Artist Alley stuff, or like many years working at Mega 64 booth, things like that. This year, though, the biggest thing that happened at Anime Expo is I met the creator of Spawn, creator of Venom, Todd McFarlane. This has been a 5-year pursuit to try to meet Todd McFarlane.
Whoa.
I'm not kidding. I've gone to like LA Comic-Con specifically to meet Todd McFarlane. I show up and it turns out they rescheduled their meet and greet for 9 a.m. in the morning and didn't tweet about it, which makes me think that it never happened. Yeah. It was just a lie.
I hope that was the first thing you said to him.
No, I told him, what did I tell? I forget. I just geeked. I told him I like Gunslinger Spawn the most. But I finally got to meet Todd McFarlane. It was so bizarre and weird. Todd McFarlane did a panel at the Sega booth for like 30 people. Talking about his Persona figure. He came out and it's like, hey folks, Todd McFarlane here. Today we're going to talk about the Persona 3 Unload. I got my figure. Like it's on the back. Whatever. But it was so cool. I love Todd McFarlane. He is so eccentric. He's the owner of Image Comics. I listen to like all of his interviews, podcasts. I still buy Spawn every week. So just being front row for a panel that no one at Anime Expo knows is going on or cares about. But it's like Todd McFarlane's right in front of me, so that was really cool. Outside that, this year for the first time at Anime Expo, they actually had Joshi wrestling. So which was amazing because it's also a thing not most people care about at Anime Expo. Again, everyone's very excited about VTubers, horse girls, things like that. Real, people that less interesting. But for me, it was cool. There was like panels every day, and so I would just keep going to like the wrestling area and basically like just keep walking into the wrestlers I wanted to meet. So it was another weekend of me like practicing Japanese, going up, talking to these wrestlers. And for some of these people, it was like the second or third time I met them. And so like there was one wrestler, Rhea Sato, like I was showing her photos and she was like, oh, I remember from when I saw her a few months ago. And so, yeah, I was like just ecstatic because like to me, it was like almost like WrestleMania weekend where it was like less about the normal Anime Expo stuff, but more so like, oh, I'm just seeing all these wrestlers every day.
Where was the wrestling section? Because this happens in the hallowed halls of the Los Angeles Convention Center, of course, which was the home of E3, the Electronic Triple for a long time. And I would almost go to Anime Expo just to walk the halls of the LACC.
It's a really nice convention center. I do like it. So it's always confusing because there's like the West Hall and the South Hall, but the South Hall is like north. Yeah, it's like northeast of the thing. I don't know. So
why they didn't just say north and south is very confusing.
But they don't want to incite the Civil War again. I don't know. But so outside the way Anime Expo is laid up is like the left side of the con is the dealer's hall, the artist alley. The top right of the con is like the entertainment hall, which is like they'll have like concerts, they'll have cosplay stuff, like just a giant hall of like big giant interactive booths. Outside in the sun, they're on the far right corner. They set up a wrestling ring. And like merch booth and an autograph area, and that's where all the wrestling stuff was. And so again, it was like it was like a thing that was like hidden from the convention. Like I feel bad because I feel like if they had better placement or if it was like even marketed even better, more people would know about it. But the inverse of that is like because so few people knew about it, it was so easy for me just to go up and immediately talk to the wrestlers. Like there was no. Also, like the wrestlers that were sent out for this show are all of like Japan's like freelancers and like mid card talent for the most part. So most people like don't know who these people are. So it was again very fun. Like I walked up to there's in Stardom the Inaba sisters, and I didn't know that one of them was going to be there. And so I was just, Azusa? And she looked at me and the first thing she said was, Stardom. She pointed at my hat and they like freaked out like, oh my God, like not in a bad way, which is what I was expecting. But like, no. They generally were like, oh my God, there's a Stardom fan here in California. What the hell? Like, because even Stardom itself is a hyper niche. But like, so yeah, I was very elated. And then, yeah, rest of Anime Expo stuff. I'm trying to think like
any game stuff at all. You mentioned the Persona 3 thing.
Yeah,
there was presumably some of the Horse Girl stuff was there as well.
Yes.
I needed to ask you guys this in our meeting because I was like, because you were all about like doing a quick look for this, and I was like, I don't know, man. This maybe like it. I get that it's like, you know, if it's you know it's not our core sort of mission of highlighting indie games and all this sort of stuff, but then also we do quick looks of big games people are expecting, and this it's kind of falling between the cracks. And then I had one of those moments where I was like, is my phone listening to me? Because on Instagram for the next week, the only ads I were getting were for this girl horse game, which his name I will never be able to remember.
They know you're into it. That's what it is. I just want to bet on horse races.
Apparently, maybe when I was in Vegas and they were like, "Oh, this guy's
that'll do it."
You know, we'll get him with all the gotcha games or whatever. But
that's
I keep seeing ads.
Gotcha.
That's exactly. So you said that streamers have been playing it and stuff. Like it's legitimately picking up.
It's like Among Us level. Like it is
really?
skyrocketed.
That's
yeah,
crazy.
it's and so it was so funny because the company that owns it, I think it's called Cry Games or Kai Games, CY
Games, right? CY Games.
CY Games.
Cry Games.
All of their merch for that stuff sold out.
To say about that.
All of their merch for the game sold out in the first hour of the convention.
Wow.
Like this blew up and they didn't expect it.
All the saddles, all the spurs.
They had like t-shirts and stuff, and like that all sold out. But like, there's so much merchandise of this stuff in Japan that it's not an issue. But like, yeah, they had like giant statues. They had a claw game where people can get stuff. They had activations. I hate that term, but like, oh, if you follow our Twitter, you get pins. So I got horse girl pins and things like that. There was people cosplaying it, but yeah, it kind of was like, it was also a thing where this is so new in terms of like for the Western audience that like Artist Alley there's so little of it there. There was like a horse Uma Musume cosplay meetup. I wasn't there for that. My friend took pictures. There was lots of cosplayers of it. But outside of that, in terms of game stuff, like not a ton of things. Peach Milky was there at our booth, and I was glad she remembered me, and we chatted a bit, which is always fun.
Nice.
Sega had some Yakuza stuff going on. Oh, yeah, even at Sega's booth, I forget, like lots of merch and stuff. But in terms of like demoing games, it's usually not Anime Expo stuff. It's always like VTubers and things like that. A lot of trading card stuff. Yeah, it's always just fun to walk around, seeing all the cosplayers, talking to friends. Vegas 4 having their booth. Rocco was cosplaying as Indiana Jones.
Outstanding.
Which is very, very fun.
My favorite anime character, Indiana Jones.
I didn't get the chance to check it out, although I was invited for it. But at the same time as the Todd McFarlane Persona 3 panel, there was a Persona concert. They had Lynn, the vocalist for Persona 5 there, do a small show. And then at that show, they announced in 2026, they're bringing like the Persona Live concert experience to tour North America. So that'll be a really cool thing to keep an eye out for.
Which is Video Games Live, isn't it? Is it connected to that or not?
Is it Tommy Tallarico?
No,
Hey,
it's its own
Tommy
thing.
Tallarico invented music, okay?
Right,
He's
yeah.
got
His mom is very proud. You're right.
Exactly, yeah. That's why I had to sell
But
that
yeah,
house, because he's had to buy a bigger house.
It's its own like stage show, like with giant lights and all that text. They're bringing that out here, but yeah, and then everyone's always like cosplaying as video game stuff. But
You mentioned the Uma Musume. Did I say it right? Uma Musume. Uma
Yes.
Musume. Is there any sort of male centric cosplay opportunities there? Like, is there like a horse owner or like a?
I mean, there was just guys cosplaying as the horse girls. So
Okay.
I don't think there's any male characters that exist in the game unless
Okay.
it's just
Wait,
assumed.
how do
that-
they make more horses?
Yeah,
I'm asking the wrong questions. Never mind. Never mind.
Whoa.
I feel like I know what the
If
answer
you
is.
spend enough merchandise,
Whoa.
then when the horse girls
That.
retire, then they fall in love with you. That's how the
I
idol
think I
culture
was
is.
asking this, lad, because for some reason in my head, what was happening was these old, because they're all based on known horses, but all the ones
Yes.
I Googled were all dead 20 years.
Yes.
So I was like, oh, what they did was they injected these, because like all anime stuff, especially when it comes to like girls in school, a lot of them end up having this like real weird backstory to it. I was like, oh, they just like got these girls from like for their shots one time in like the 6th grade, and they injected them with like the essence.
Like,
of
this is like a
Yeah.
vaccine. This is their
Yes.
hepatitis B shot.
Yes,
Secretly,
exactly.
the B stands for Borse. I don't know.
Hepatitis
Hepatitis H.
the B stands for
That's good. Well done.
Exactly.
I was thinking it was going to be like, this is what heaven is like for horses. Like your spirit moves on and you become an anime girl.
Heaven
and
is
still
just
gets to
more
run.
That's not
racing.
bad.
They just have to.
Yeah.
It's like you die at your cubicle and you wake up in a cubicle.
That sounds like a
that's
dream.
so nice. I like the idea that
Yeah.
everyone has their own heaven. Like my heaven would be the heaven as a half pipe heaven. That
So
was
you're gonna say heaven is a half life.
it's a half.
Yeah, that's what I was
that's True. I
expecting.
should do that. I'll just be stuck
That's what Gordon
in,
Freeman is in.
in a
Tony
science
Hawk.
fiction horror world for the rest of eternity. That sounds great.
So relaxing.
Tony Hawk 2 does have Skater's Heaven, so
It does. You're
There you
right. Yeah. Was Heaven and a Half? I was never in an ATHBS soundtrack. I don't believe.
I don't think so.
Jesse shrugging. Do you even know this song? Is this like did this? get-
You're speaking a different language to me
Yeah.
at this point.
If I die before I wake, at least in heaven I can skate. Am I the only
Oh,
person
the
who knows
cover
this
for this
song?
album is crazy.
Surely, Frank, you know the song?
I don't think I'm not
Dude.
familiar with it. No.
Jeremy?
That was a good song though.
No, who? Who
Was
is
this
OPM?
was OPM? Yes. Was this like? Was this one of these songs that like was from an American band that only was popular in Europe? That would be
Maybe.
It might be. It
sounds like it would have been
song.
in the Digimon the movie soundtrack. All my
Yeah.
Digimon fans know what's up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is there a
This
skateboard
is great
Digimon?
ska. Probably. There's a Digimon for everything if you think about it.
Yes, there must be, right?
Yeah. There's one that has 2 guns for some, just 2 pistols, just like a cowboy.
Is there like a weed Digimon? Is there like a
Yeah,
weed Digimon?
exactly. Yeah.
Probably.
Is there Juggalo Digimon?
Probably.
There's gotta be Clown Digimon.
There's got to
can
be a
make it
clown
happen.
Digimon.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Don't say anyway.
do-
We're not done
I
talking
forgot
about
how
Digimon.
No, we can move on.
Wait,
It's okay.
You last time we talked about Digimon, it was a race to
couldn't
get
shut
out of
up
it.
about it, yeah.
Now we're chilling in the hot tub. Of
Oh yeah,
Digimon
Namco Bandai. They did have a booth. That was the thing. Is like there were booths
Frank to
demoing
the
games,
rescue.
but it's like, oh, I saw this at Summer Games Fest. I don't need to wait in line to play it. Like, but yeah. So Namco Bandai Had a
I always
booth.
mess that up too.
What'd you
I
call
know.
it?
I know.
Sokokai?
It's probably why I always get
Bando.
ignored when I reach out. Namco,
Nando's.
Who the fuck is Bando? Stop emailing
Namco
us.
Bandai. I always say Namkai Bando. Whatever.
Namdai Kazooie. Is that it? I don't.
Yeah, nuts and bolts. So Namco Bandai did have a booth there. They had Code Vein 2. I'm assuming they had the Digimon gameplay. I think it was just their same Summer Games Fest lineup. I forget. Yeah, now that I think about it, I think there were several places that had demo stations, but it's like, yeah, this stuff I just played. But yeah, when's that Digimon game come out? It's like the fall?
October, I think.
Okay.
Jesse is making the point that nothing is coming out at the moment because the Steam sale is on. So everything's coming out next week. There's like a bunch of indie shenanigans coming out. We talked about it a little bit, so should I just get my Tony Hawk minute out of the way here?
Yeah, hawk it up.
All right,
Tony Hawk hour.
hawk it up. Hawk
Yeah.
Hawk
2, you know what I'm saying?
Move
Yeah,
over.
baby.
This is Hawk 3 and Hawk 4. Tony Hawk's
Awful.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 is out from the folks at Iron Galaxy over in Chirac. They've put out a collection, much like the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 that came out a couple of years back. This one is 3 and 4. 3, of course, is sort of traditional early THPS game, and 4 had a bit more sort of open world mission style stuff, as Frank has talked about over the past couple months on the podcast here. And they have reduced that down. They've taken out sort of the open, free roaming mission style of THPS 4 and made it a 2-minute sort of session run based thing, much like 1, 2, and 3. And the collection is out technically on Thursday. We record these on Tuesday morning. They unlocked it for people who are sickos who wanted the limited edition, exclusive edition, whatever it was, premium edition, which I got so that we could play the Foundry demo. And we did a quick look of that over on Noclip Crew for now, a couple of weeks back. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4. Frank, have you touched this yet at all? You haven't unlocked your one?
No, I'm waiting for Game Pass, which I think unlocks Thursday or Friday.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, so I haven't seen anything of it. I'm excited for it, but I'm curious about how you're enjoying it.
So I would say there is very little to report that is out of the ordinary. Everything about this feels very much like the THPS 1 and 2 remaster that came out. The menu is very similar. The setup is similar. You pick a skater. You can jump into the career mode of 3 and 4. Each skater has a percentage for how much of that they have completed. There is a fairly large roster. It's like maybe, I don't know, almost 30 skaters, quite a lot. They have them almost divvied up into like, here's the young crew, here's the established folks you remember, and then here's some younger folks. Like, we don't know where to put Riley Hawk and Nigel Huston now because they're old as well, but they used to be young. So they have a good breakup of that. The levels, if you saw the Foundry stuff, it's very much that. Like, it looks good. It looks the same as 1 and 2 did. The levels, how much you enjoy them, is very much based on how much you enjoyed those games. Probably a large drip of nostalgia. I really enjoyed. There's some places I hadn't been in forever, like that airport level, that other San Francisco level that I keep getting. That's in 4 that I keep getting confused with the San Francisco level from 1. It has the revert stuff in both 3 and 4, so you can extend your combos outside of that was in 2. So what it's the transition thing, right? It's the bowl transitions that's in this one as well. So you've got loads of opportunities to extend your scores, same as any of these games. I played for 2 hours last night. I had unlocked almost all the games by that stage. If you know the levels, a large part of these games is remembering, how do I knock the snow down on the bully in the Canadian level, or whatever. How do I where are the pumpkins in the college level at the start of THPS 4, all that sort of stuff. I will say, I think the delta in graphics isn't as impressive, obviously. So in a weird way, I wish I could hit a button and see what 3 and 4 looked like, because in my head they look a bit sharper. But obviously 1 and 2 were PlayStation 1 games. 3 and 4 were PlayStation 2 games. So maybe it feels a little, for whatever reason, it doesn't feel as, as much of an upgrade. Like, I remember what 1 and 2 looked like and how shitty the frame rate was on the PlayStation and all that stuff when I'm playing them. And I think I played 3 on PC predominantly, actually, when I was growing up. So it doesn't feel as crazy a leap. I will say the one asterisk which people have reported on prior to this is the soundtrack. There's a bunch like whenever a song that I remember from 3 and less so 4 come on, I'm really jazzed. But like, you know, they have 96 Quite Bitter Beans by CKY in there, Del the Funky Homo Sapiens in there, a bunch of ones you'll remember. But I was like last night looking up THPS 3 soundtracks to be like, I know they're missing loads. And yeah, I think there's a report out from, I think it's Video Game Chronicle today on that a post on Reddit I saw that said 20% of the soundtrack of this one is based on the original soundtracks. I think that's a little bit misleading because they have added a lot. So that's going to sort of spread out that number a little bit. There's a bunch of Mick Gordon tracks in here because they have Doom. There's a Revenant and a Doomslayer model in here. So they have music from a bunch of the Doom games in here, which I immediately turned off all of it because it's just tonally completely inconsistent with the experience of playing this game. Yeah, and aside from that, it's just, hey man, it's Tony Hawk. It's a good time. I think the nostalgia on these ones hits a little bit softer for me than the original one did, because THPS 2 is definitely my favorite of the bunch. 3 is probably my second favorite, but you know, for whatever reason, it's not quite hitting those levels. But yeah, otherwise it is very what you see is what you get. If you played the first one of these remakes, then it's basically what you're going to expect, I imagine.
Is there a clear reason that they did this sort of like rewrapping of 4 into the traditional format of 1, 2, and 3 instead of doing the sort of like career mode? Like I wasn't sure if there was a rationale behind that or it was just to be cohesive with the other ones.
The reporting on it suggested that it was a decision that they sort of hemmed and hawed over a little bit, but I never heard like a definitive why they did it. I imagine... If I'm guessing, this is Iron Galaxy doing this, so this is a third-party studio that's been hired to do this remake. They did not do the first one, right? Who did the first one? Was that
Vicarious Visions? It was the studio that was like decimated to work on Diablo after.
Yes, they're based just out of Novato here as well, in the North Bay. Whereas Iron Galaxy are a very prolific for hire studio, and I suspect it's going to cost a lot more and take a lot more time for us to do the open world for the time, free roam version of THPS 4. So I think I get Frank is more familiar with THPS 4, but like, I think I don't necessarily think it's the most compelling version of an open, Thug kind of did it better. Right, yeah. Frank?
Yeah, like 4 was the growing pains to get to Thug. And like the biggest thing is like with 4 is like there's NPCs on the map and they all have not all, but a lot of them have voice acting lines. So like having to record that and do all that, it's like, I mean, again, as a purist, I'm like, oh my. But the thing that always annoyed me was like, if they're calling it a remake, but in all the marketing, it's like, it's classic mode. We don't have the original stuff. So it's like, it's not a remake, but it's not a demake, but it's, I don't know. The thing I'm so curious with is like, how many goals does the Tony Hawk 4 level have? Because in Tony Hawk 4, each stage had like 50 goals. So is it just 10 goals now? Is it still 50? Like, how many did they crunch a bunch? Like, what are the actual goal lists for Tony Hawk 4
That's interesting. I didn't realize there was quite that many in the 4 ones. I would say it feels like 20% more than a 3 level. It might be the exact same. I'm not sure. But it seemed like, it was, okay, pro score, 6 score, high combo, skate, secret tape. Yeah, right. A lot of people don't make that connection, by the way. Same with Noclip. And then more bespoke ones, because I feel like there's an Iron Galaxy pickup in every level as well, which I think is new. And then I would say that it seems like the ones in 4 are more novel than the ones in 3. The 3 ones are more, do a nose grind over the gap or do a da-da-da here. They have the skater out there with the taking the photographs and stuff. But it's not like a massively hugely exhaustive list or anything like that. And the unlock process is the same. It's just adding up a certain amount until you unlock the next level. And you can spread those out across the the various ones. And then they have same. I think it's the same as 2. They have the attribute point upgrades that you pick up. They have the money that you can pick up. They have the stores, so you can buy. I bought my toy machine deck again. Got my Spitfire wheels. Got my. They don't have. I don't think they have truck manufacturers, but I picked the ones that look closest to Royales. Can't pick your bearings, any of that shit. Obviously, you can pick if you're Mongo or Mongo and Switch. It's all the same stuff that's in 1 and 2, largely on that end.
So if I've never played any of the Tony Hawk games that people like, I've never gotten into that series.
Okay.
I have friends who did, and I skateboarded. The only Tony Hawk game I ever played was Ride, the one with the plastic
shit.
skateboard.
That's the only Tony Hawk game you've
That's
ever
the only
played?
Talk game I've
That's
ever
wild.
played.
That's
That's
wild.
I know,
insane.
right? That's like the only Final Fantasy I've ever played is 13. That's not true, but it was for a while.
Okay, that's also insane.
I know. That's disgusting,
That's
right?
like
what
saying the
happens
only
when you're a
Orson
child.
Welles performance you saw was in that ad for the champagne.
For the wine? Oh,
Yeah.
exactly. That's all I know of
I
him.
would
It's
actually-
that.
I
It's
believe
that and Pinky in the Brain, which isn't him, but he's doing an Orson Welles. I literally, that's not even a joke. I didn't know who Orson Welles was until like 7 years ago, I think. Yeah, most of my life he was drunk or a rat, which I think was most of his life too.
Yes, it turns out.
Yeah. Does this work as if I wanted to play Tony Hawk for the first time? Do you think this is the right way to play 3 and 4, or should I go back and play the original 3?
Did you play the 1 and 2 one?
I never played any Tony Hawk game except for Tony Hawk Ride with the skateboard.
But you
for like
also
an
never
hour.
didn't play the 1 and 2 remake that came out.
No, I didn't play that either. No.
Go play that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's-
don't play 3 and 4
That's
remake.
the best it is. But if you like that one, then good. Then play this. Like, but it is.
But if I wanted to
that's
play
the order.
3,
If you wanted to
I'm
play,
saying.
I would say play this. 3. This is basic.
Okay.
One. I don't know, Frank. I think the 1 and 2 remake are like 98% the same as 1 and 2 if you're to play it on a PlayStation, except for it feels different because the controls were different, the frame rate was different, the controller you had was different, you know what I mean? But it's like a very it's not even like a Black Mesa Half-Life thing. It's like pretty much the same, right, Frank?
The biggest difference is you can manual in 1, and I think you can also do reverts in Tony Hawk 1 Remake, and that's like jarring. So like original Tony Hawk 1, it's like you can grind and go off half pipes and like that's it. So it's like the scoring mechanics are different, but other than that, in terms of like the level layout and goals are identical. If you just want to have a good time, yeah, play 1 and 2 Remake. You don't need to like, oh, this is how the Settlers did it back then. Like it's I'm so skeptical of 4 though. Like
I was gonna say the
having,
same thing.
so I would say Tony Hawk 3. You play this, go nuts. 4, I feel like to truly appreciate Thug, you have to play 4 in its rawness. Because I also like the voice acting in 4 is so cheesy. It's like, hey, I'm Tony Hawk. I'm gonna teach you how to do a kickflip.
Yeah.
It's like bad funny, and I like it. I like that.
None of that stuff is in here, unfortunately.
no.
They basically converted the 4 levels into 3 or 2 levels. That's yeah.
Tony Hawk 4 is like a mumblecore movie. Like it's like the tone of it is like they're just like, hey man, we're making a video game. Can you just like say something to like, hey, I lost my shoes over there. Could you go get them? And they're like, yeah, that's good enough. We'll use it.
It's really that for 50 times per
It's
level.
so
That's why
good.
it's like, hey man, they'll have like Ollie the Bum, and it's like, drink too much.
Forgot
I
about
see the
Ollie the
pink
Bum.
elephants. Can you find them? It's
Officer
just like
Dick, of course. In
yeah, it's just
4
that
as well.
cheesiness.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like 4 a lot. I'm a big fan of 4. Maybe it was like, I don't know if it's the few years of age difference where it like hit at the right time for me, but like of the first 4, I think 1 and 4 were the ones that hit
cool.
the most for me.
Nice. 4. I remember 4 looked really good as well. 4 was
Yeah.
like there was a lot of advancements in 3D tech then.
Even though Thug outclassed it so much on the sort of like narrative structure and stuff, I do feel like going from 1, 2, and 3 to 4, it did feel like it was this leap forward in game design where it was like, oh, now Tony Hawk has like levels, like it's like a world. It's not just like these little sort of like instances. It feels like continuous, and I don't know, living and breathing is a little fucking overstated for what it's doing, but there's like NPCs you can talk to. That's a lot of game feel you get out of that.
And like that's the experience of skateboarding is you have a town, you have one big level, and you go find the spots and you work the spots. And I think if you were like skating around then the evolution of into something like that, especially in Thug, because Thug feels like a big world, it opens up slowly and yada yada yada. But yeah, 4 kind of walked so Thug could run, I feel like. Yeah, but you should definitely do that, Jesse. Like they're
Yeah.
really good games. And what Frank was saying about the manuals, the basic main scoring mechanic in these games is getting combos, so it's just like not breaking your chain. So essentially you could use manuals and like reverting when you got out of a half pipe or transitioning into another bowl to just keep your combo going. But in the first game, the original version, if you weren't grinding or if you went up a half pipe, you basically ended your combo because you just come back down and then, oh, well, you know what you meant to do now. And you couldn't connect rails unless you jumped from a rail to a rail. But you can manual between everything. So you're just like constantly manualing and constantly grinding and constantly transitioning, and it's ridiculous. So it definitely makes the some of the combo scores in those games a little bit easier. I think they might have put them up though in some of them. I found the ones in 3 and 4 to be very, very catchable without even specials. So I don't know what was going on because I just made my own character, and of course I had the fucking 900 as my special. So I was like never using it because it's like half a second too long if you don't get a high enough pop, and you tend to not if you're a created character. You don't have the stats high enough really. So.
That's like my favorite disconnect in the Tony Hawk games is you'll be with these pros around the time that it's like, wow, Tony Hawk did like the 900. This is like a physically inconceivable thing. And then it's like Thug is like, you're some fucking kid from New Jersey who's doing like a side flip over a helicopter. Like you would be, yeah, you're like, you would be, the entire world would know your name if you were doing that shit.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's good
Great.
stuff. THPS 3 and 4. Any more questions before we move on? Available now. I didn't know it was on Game Pass. That's pretty cool. Also,
How much is it?
That's what literally I was just about to look up. I think it's what did I pay for it? It's $49.99, or if you're a sicko like me, it's $69.99. Nice. Playing some Tony Hawk a couple of days early. Shout out to the folks at Iron Galaxy for putting that one out there. Good job, Dave Lang. You scumbag. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the Altars. Jesse Garasha.
Oh, no.
This is a game I really enjoyed. I think it was one of the games I talked about on Next Fest last year. Super weird game. Just another 11-bit joint. They just make fucking weird Eastern European nightmares, and this is a pretty cool one. I don't know how far to go into this. You know, I feel like the conceit of the game is in the key art.
You can't not talk.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I was thinking about this exact conversation
because you know how
yesterday,
much of a
because
little
I knew you were
whiny-
going to be like,
Yeah.
should we talk about this?
Yeah.
You cannot
Daddy and his
avoid.
spoilers.
Yeah, you cannot avoid the fact that this is a game about clones.
Yeah,
it's on the cover. Like you can't buy it without seeing.
It's called the Altars, which
It's called,
is
like it's you can't. So okay,
it's not that type of altar.
Yeah.
It's all
or is it? Spoilers.
Oh.
No, there's the spoilers.
Spoilers. It's religious.
Why does that keep happening?
Is it under the religious tag on Steam?
Oh,
They must
let me
have that.
check. Yeah, that's a tag.
It must be, right?
I am Jesus Christ has that.
Does it? Does it? It
Yeah,
should.
your goatee. It must. I don't know. I'm just
Does Faith have that?
maybe.
No, there's no
anti-religion?
Oh my God, I am Jesus Christ is the tags are simulation, adventure, indie, action, and casual. Just a casual Messiah game.
Oh, they got Faith down there. If you scroll down far enough, Faith is one of the tags.
No, is
There's
it?
also, yeah. There's also God Game.
Yeah, I was just going to say God Game.
That's good.
That's so
They
funny.
don't have it under God Game.
They do. Peter
That
Molyneux
is fucking
Yeah, he's pissed.
ridiculous. That is amazing and ridiculous. Oh my God.
We check out
Faith.
the Faith tab real quick.
Yeah, I'm in the Faith. Is Faith
what's
in
in-
the Faith tab?
Forget the
It's
altars.
gotta be.
It is.
Cult of the Lamb.
Cult of
That's
the
a good one.
That makes sense. Yeah, Becoming Saint is probably on there.
This is if you were like a super strictly religious person and you're like, I'm just trying to find some like good religious games for my kids to play. This is the most like divide. This is mostly not that.
Is there like a secret like? Most of these games are anime games in the Faith tab. Is there just like mad Buddhism going on in here, or what is happening?
Or Taoism or anything. Yeah, probably a lot of
Is
that.
devotion in here maybe?
Oh my God,
Ooh, Honey, I Joined a Cult. Nice. It's a good
the
one.
Bible. The Bible is here.
They made a game out of the Bible.
Wow.
The developer is called Bible Games. I think it's like oh my God, it's a trivia game. You read the Bible and then it asks you who wrote the book of Timothy.
Oh, dude, you should have done that in SGDQ. You would have crushed it.
Annotations.
You have to say what translation it's from.
Oh my God, Word English Bible, King James Bible. They have the Dewey Reams 1899 American edition.
That's a good one.
The Biblia Sacra Vulgata. The fuck is that? Like the vampire Bible?
Wait, if you go through the screenshots about like almost halfway, there's a screenshot of correct and false for presumably if you get a question right or wrong.
Okay.
Correct is like God's light shining down onto you, and false is like the eye of Sauron.
Oh my God, it's an
eclipse.
An eclipse. INRI, baby. Holy shit,
Oh,
we
hell
gotta
yeah.
play Bible.
You can also buy Muslim 3D. This is awesome.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
They did a 3D version of Muslim? Fuck that.
Yeah, they finally. I know,
man.
right? I stick to 2D
The
Muslim myself.
transition to 3D was a really tough time, and
Yeah, it was hard
in the
to
faith.
pull that off in Islam. Yeah.
Oh my God, wait, okay, this feels sacrilegious because the first screenshot
Yeah.
is you're walking around Mecca, and I know I'm
Yeah.
not allowed there. So,
No way.
This is
Muslim
the only way
3D
you're allowed there.
is an educational simulation. Begin your journey in virtual Mecca, visit the Holy Mosque, explore the virtual museum, or go back in time to relive a historic moment. That sounds ominous.
It opens like Death Stranding. You have to do Hajj for like, takes you like 3 days. You gotta walk.
Wait, that would be
all the way.
awesome.
That would be awesome.
Try not to die of exposure while you're on the way there. This looks cool. It looks like PlayStation Home for Mecca.
It does. It does. It looks exactly like PlayStation.
You can buy the
Oh,
Muslim
brother.
3D original soundtrack. I should also mention that God Game do have a soundtrack for the Bible listed. The Bible soundtrack. It says coming soon. But yeah, it hasn't come out yet, so gotta wait for that.
Wait, I can't tell if this review is being facetious or if this is a real thing, but it says, looking forward to the online options. Also, couldn't find the website to purchase NFTs, which grant you infinite prayers. I don't.
Oh.
That's gotta be fake, right? That can't be real.
No.
I don't know, man. I don't understand the world anymore. That could be the most real thing there. That might be the most real thing in the Bible 2D.
I don't know what to believe anymore.
This faith section looks cool. We should play some of these games.
Yeah. there
Muslim
you go.
3D might be the funniest named thing I've ever heard in my life, though.
Yeah. It's up there.
That's
It's like they could have come up with a name that had a little more sauce than that.
No.
Mecca 3D might have felt like sacrilegious or something. You know what I mean? It's
Mecha 3D also makes me think it's like a giant robot game, so that doesn't really work.
Yeah, they Mecha Warrior.
You're right. There's a game here called The Unholy Priest. Manage a haunted funeral service as a priest in a cursed forest. Bury or cremate the dead. Perform exorcism, fend off demonic possessions, and quiet restless souls. Survive terrifying encounters, maintain sanity, and experience the pinnacle of horror simulation in The Unholy Priest. This came out in April of this year.
Holy
I
shit.
might have to play this. It's in early access. It costs $7. You can also buy it in a pack with Old Market Simulator. I don't know what that
You know
means.
about Super Noah's Ark 3D, right?
I don't.
You don't? Oh, man. Do I have a Doom clone for you?
Oh, I have heard of this.
Okay.
Yes, but I don't think I've definitely never played it. Is it on Steam?
Well, now it's on Steam for $4.
Noah's Ark 3D. Oh my god.
It's described as a non-violent Christian first-person shooter.
Is that what it's called? I can't find it. Is it called?
Oh, it's Super 3D Noah's Ark now on Steam, I guess. Maybe it was always that.
There it is. Yeah.
These religious games love to tell you that they're 3D. Well,
Yeah,
this
this
one's from
is-
1994, so
Well,
I
it's
guess
like
it
the
made
Holy
sense.
Trinity, right? They don't, it's important that it's the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit is the X, Y, and Z axes.
Yeah, that's why whenever I'm doing Blender, I'm always like I do like a up, down, left, right to remember. The
Which
axes.
one's
Also
the
to make
Z
sure it doesn't
axis?
crash.
Yeah.
I
What?
feel like the Holy Spirit's the Z axis.
Oh, yeah, probably. It depends if you're using Blender or Unity.
You have to pay.
Yeah, is it up or down? It
'Cause-
depends on
'cause
which
Y,
app you have
Y
open,
and Z
yeah.
are
Yeah.
different.
yeah, John Riccitello makes you pay for the Holy Spirit
Yeah,
for every time you sell a game in a.
yeah. If you make
in-
over
It's
$100,000
It's called
a
tithing,
year.
okay? Have some respect.
Tithes. Hey man, the streets in Salt Lake City were pretty fucking clean. Let me tell you that. So Mecca looks pretty clean in Muslim 3D.
It does.
Let me say that.
does.
You've been to San Francisco recently? The godless San Francisco.
The godless
Ironically,
streets of San Francisco.
San Francisco, St. Francis of Assisi. If he had it his way, there'd be no city there. It would just be a big park full of animals.
Hey, while we're talking about cities real quick, you did name, I swear we'll go back to talking about the altars at some point. You did name the city that Iron Galaxy's from.
Chicago.
And you said Chirac.
I did, yeah.
And I did not know what the hell you were talking. I thought you were like,
Never heard
chill.
of Chirac?
I'd never heard anyone I've heard, Windy City. I've heard
it's a war
My
zone.
Kind of Town. Shout outs Frank Sinatra. But yeah, I did not know Chirac as a name for Chicago.
Yeah.
That's
I
crazy.
don't know who
Because of-
coined that
because of-
necessarily.
I have no idea where it came
Yeah.
from, but because of like street
I would imagine the
violence.
death rate probably lined up with something in Iraq at some point during the war. Yeah.
I don't know.
Don't,
Cool.
don't fuck around Caprini Green, man. It's rough times. Let's hit eject on this religious section we stumbled into, to talk about the godless game, the altars. Godless because they use the devil, don't they, Jesse?
That's true.
They use the
whole
devil.
thing is AI generated.
They used the
did
devil
it.
on one picture, and the internet
Yeah,
said
it's all
no.
fake. Yeah, that's an interesting conversation.
It is.
We can
No,
have
it
that
is,
after
it
I
is.
explain the game.
Yeah,
I
fair
would love
enough.
to talk
Yeah.
about it.
Let's talk about the game first on its own terms.
Sure.
We can get right
Yeah, let's explain it. So this is an AI generated game where everything's fake. No, so the altars is,
Got 'em.
I think, honestly, one of my favorite games of this year so far.
Awesome.
I really, really like this game. So the altars is a third-person crafting survival game, I guess is how you would describe it. You play as Jan Dolsky, who's been marooned on this planet. He works for a corporation. I can't remember the name. Doesn't matter. Call it like science tech, whatever you want. It's a futuristic company or a space man in the suit, and you are trying to survive on this planet with the limited resources that are there. You also are, as part of the crew that you were in, you have this giant wheel that is like the ship that you live in, and it's full of shipping containers. It's like visually such a weird
It's
thing
so
because the
strange.
planet is desolate. It has been destroyed by this sun that you orbit the sun, but as you pass it and the sun goes over part of the planet, it burns everything. So everything is like singed and dark and messed up. There's like lava flowing everywhere. It's really cool. But your ship that is a wheel, you have to maneuver it along the planet. Not literally, you just pick the next point it's going to go to, and it requires a certain amount of resources. Now, of course, managing that giant spaceship and getting all the resources you need as one person on an alien planet might not be the easiest thing to do. So you have to create altars, which are like the other people that exist in the ship with you, and can also go and perform tasks. They're sort of like your lemmings, and the altars are altered versions of Jan Dolsky created using unobtainium. They're like fake science fiction material. I think it's called rapidium is the
Okay.
actual name. And you use that to create these clones, which I think is a really cool conceit, like narratively, because the way that you do it is you go into the quantum computer and you can see all of the player character Jan's moments in life that are like pivotal.
It's
you
so
can, like you
cool.
can literally zoom in
Yeah.
on the moments in life and see
broke up with your girlfriend, car crash
Yes.
happened, like all this shit.
Yeah, your dad offers you a job and you say no
Yeah.
because your dad's a bitch, like shit like that. It's really, really like, and so when you go to do the altered thing, early on, it's just there's one moment where there's an inflection point and you can select that. But as time goes on, you learn like, oh, there's other inflection points in my life where if I did something slightly different, instead of being just going on a space mission and having no direction in life, if I, instead of like letting my mom get beat up by my dad, if I beat the shit out of my dad, I actually would have been a miner and like things change and all that sort of stuff, right? So it's really like, it's actually a very interesting mechanic and it plays through narratively in a really good way. It's all done by one actor who does every
that's
single
cool.
version of Jan, which is like so impressive. Some of them are a little silly. There's one that's like is a dude bro with a man bun who's like, dude, just like chill out, man. Like everything's fun. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's the stereotype. If I needed to pick a character to play and I had 27 of them, I would do that too. So yeah, it's just that part of it, the story part is really, really good. The other half of it that's not in the base dealing with these different personalities conflicting is like a crafting game in that you are trying to mine resources. So like you'll see on the planet, there are some lying around that you can just pick up or mining spots that you can interact with. But then there's other bigger spots that you have to build a mining outpost at. And you have to manage your resources in terms of connecting them, the power of them to the main base, and then also maintaining your storage. So it's a big management game in terms of resources. How much do you have? How much do you need to research something new or build something up? You have to be aware of different events that can take place. Like there's a magnetic storm that causes a bunch of problems on your ship, and you have to prepare for that and have the same amount of resources that is required. So it's that back and forth of maintaining resources and maintaining your characters. You have to make sure that they're fed and that they're happy and that they're not losing their minds. One of them, like, self-harms at a certain point.
Oh, wow.
I will not say which one, but it's a really cool moment and it plays a big role in the story. So the way that you express yourself in the game and the way that you make choices, both mechanically and narratively, have a lot to do with how things play out over time. And the stakes are constantly rising. There's always some new challenge you need to overcome, which I just find so compelling. Like, I can't stop playing it, which is hard to say for one of these. I do not like crafting survival games usually. So when this one is doing something, like if I'm tired of doing the crafting, I go back to the base, hang out with the altars, have fun with them. I'm out. Like, okay, one other thing I want to mention before we talk about anything else or anyone has any questions. There is a lot of social stuff you could do in the game, which I was surprised to find out.
Just hanging
like, you
out.
can just see, you could see the altars just having a conversation, which is really cool. Like, they'll just talk, or you could talk to them about what's going on, get updates on their life, sort of like just have regular conversations. But you can also build a social room. And in the social room, you can play beer pong. Like, why can you just play beer pong?
Stuff.
It's so like, literally in first person, you're throwing the ball, trying to get it to land, and then the other yon's doing it to you, and you get drunk, and it's
Is
like
there
a fun
some
little thing.
Perk maybe or something like their
It impacts
happiness?
their happiness.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're more proud if you let them win. But also, I let the guy win, and he was like, "You just let me win, didn't you?" And I'm like, "No, man, I'm actually bad at this game. I swear." Wink.
What's
so that was fun.
when I played the demo, it was pretty structured around like, okay, we're gonna upgrade like you said, the spaceship literally looks like a bicycle wheel that you were like within the spokes you were putting the rooms in, and then it just rolls to the next part of the planet, right? And then you have a new area. So I found that experience in the demo at least to be like, it was open in that I could decide what I was doing, but the process was fairly linear. It was like, because it was like, oh, I need to go out and collect this sort of stuff that's in this area, come back and build these rooms. And I could kind of do it in whatever order I wanted. But in general, what I was doing per area was pretty fixed. Is that the case? Because like a lot of survival crafty games are a bit more, sandboxy. And this felt like, oh, you're going from level to level still in this.
Yeah, this is surprisingly a linear game. That's actually a really good point. It's not like survival crafty in Minecraft's sort of perspective of that, or Rust. Like, you're not designing anything outside of whatever you can do to collect the resources. But the resources that you need are explicit. Like, you need a certain amount of organics so that you can move your ship to the next location. But sometimes you run into obstacles. Like, one of the first things you have to do in Act 1 is get over this lava river. And eventually you get a scientist who can like research things. He'll figure out something, et cetera, et cetera. It all builds on itself. But there are things that, you do have to do. Like I said, the sun decimates everything that it hits. So you have a time limit that's stated to you every new day. It'll be like day 15, sun is far away. And then eventually it turns out, oh shit, the sun is coming.
Do you have an oxygen limit as well? Am I remembering?
I don't
or
know.
something? No.
There's no like resource
or
limit
tethers
outside.
or something. I remember there being like a tether I had to extend.
There's a
out to.
limit to the amount of pylons you can build.
Right.
So like you have only so many that you can connect, and then you have to build up the resources to get more pylons so you can power things that are further away from the ship. And you have a certain amount of energy in your suit. So like climbing certain surfaces requires a certain amount of energy. Yeah. So that's one of the main things. Everything is everything you want to do has some resource limit to it, and you have to be cognizant of that and build around it. But like you said, it's mostly focused on building and getting what you need so you can get to the next point. It's a fun challenge. Like, I thought that was going to be boring, especially as I continued playing through the game. I was like, this can only be fun one time.
Right.
Nope. Because there's lots of cool things that they introduce. Like, there's these, I will just call them anomalies, weird things that you see on the planet that mess with you in cool ways. Like, sci-fi wise, this is very clearly inspired by a lot of modern Western sci-fi, like almost to the point where you're like, isn't that kind of a ripoff in certain points? But it does that. And then it also has this weird, unique European spin on it. Like, the Jan Dolsky loves pierogies. Like, that's his whole thing, and his mom's pierogies. They talk about that a lot. They have these connections that seem culturally based, but then also sort of idiosyncratic. Like, that's all done really well. There was one moment, I will not say anything specific, but there was a moment in this game that made me go, what the actual fuck did you just do on the screen? Even my wife, who was sitting next to me, who didn't give a crap because she doesn't like sci-fi, looked up and went, excuse me, Jess, what is this game? Like, I thought this was a crafting game. What's going on right now? So it gets weird. It gets really weird in its own unique, strange way. And I really, really like it. I want to see where it goes in the end. But ultimately, I think even where it is right now, I love it. Unless it like doesn't do anything new or interesting, which I can't possibly imagine, this will probably end up being one of my games of the year. It's so much fun.
Great to hear it. Yeah, The Alters. I'm looking forward to playing a bit more of it. It came out, when was it? Was it just last
a month ago, right?
Yeah, about a month, 3 weeks ago or something, which is pretty cool. Do we need to relitigate the thing? So what I hear was that there was folks found that there was a screen inside the base that had used some generative AI imagery on it. Was it only this one image, this one texture, and then they replaced it?
So there were a couple of things that I saw when the conversation sort of sprung up. If you missed the discourse, I'm happy. I wish I was you. For a brief period there, a bunch of people, as Danny mentioned, noticed that there was some text on a unimportant-ish panel that you kind of have to play with the camera angle to see. If you're playing on console, I don't even think you can read it because the resolution's too low and it like gets all smeared. But basically, it had a chunk of a ChatGPT looking response of like when you type in, "Can you tell me this?" And then it's like, "Oh yeah, here's a description," and then it gives you a bunch of text. And then another one was there are these movies you can watch in game that have subtitles. One of the subtitles in a different language was translated using ChatGPT, assuming.
Bummer.
Yeah, that was the case. Nothing new for translations, to be fair. Machine language translations have always propped up in a bunch of different media. That's not an excuse. I'm just saying it happens a lot. And there was some images that maybe were AI generated. Like there are portraits that you see when you do certain calls with people on Earth. And those
I remember,
look like they might be.
I remember seeing the key art when it first came out and thinking, I wonder if that was, only because I don't think it is, but it was one of those things where, and I think we all had the same conversation about Indica. About the key art.
Indica's key art is, I don't think there's a way that those old ladies have so many teeth in their mouth unless they were generated.
Good point. It is bad.
Like, go look at the picture and count the teeth on some of those.
The wrinkles
ladies.
are also very uncanny. There's like vertical lines on Indica.
There's some stuff where I'm like, okay, all right. The main character looks fine because I mean, it's just probably the model they have. But yeah, it's an interesting conversation to have because like, I understand the frustration. I hate generative AI. We've talked about it on this pod multiple times. I think it's bad. I think it's bad for the industry. Even using it in production, obviously, it can leak through, and that's not a great thing. But also, I think if we're only getting mad when we see it, then we're not getting mad at the reality of it. Like, I think most, don't quote me. I've done a little bit of research, but a lot of big games have been using generative AI, and not just recently. Like, The Outer Worlds used generative AI voice technology. They did a whole feature with the company they worked with in pre-production when making the game. So like, this is not a new phenomenon.
That was in the final game, or
no? They used it when they were deciding how they wanted to do some of the performances.
I am embedded with a couple of games at the moment, and anyone that they have any voice work at all, they're using AI voice at the moment. Like they're not going to use them for the final runs. But then I say the final ones. The Finals is a game that does use. For the announcers, it uses machine learning voice stuff, and they've given their reasonings for that and said they paid the people above board, yada yada yada, all that sort of stuff. But we've had these conversations before, right? It's this case by case thing where no one's given out to us for like, I use content aware fill on Photoshop for the past 4 years. Is that generative AI now? Maybe, I don't know. It's
like no one would have been mad at the Alters about this if they didn't have the prompts still left in the translation of the text. No one cared. Like Expedition 33 had a similar problem where there was a handful of textures on a pole in the early game that were clearly AI generated, and they were replaced after the fact, and it just kind of came and went.
Well, you're having a lot of studios doing it as well because of the funding stuff, because especially the past 2 years, nobody was funding games based on pitch decks anymore. You basically had to have some version of what your thing, and then it's a case of money and time and everything else. And people were spitting out these versions, or even just mood trailers that were based on that stuff. Like, it has become a tool for people to do stuff faster and cheaper. games you like and games you don't like. And I think that's it's tough. It's tough. Like we're clearly in the middle of this thing, and trying to draw the moral lines is tricky. And some people's are earlier than others, and some are late than others. So it's a bit funny.
Like, I don't think The Alters loses any of its quality artistically just because this stuff is there. Like, I feel this is the conflict that I have personally, right? This is my sort of cutoff point, is like, the game is still impressive. It's still very artistically driven. It's clearly, it has a vision. It comes from a specific culture that drives that vision. It has a lot of love for sci-fi, although I do think it's a little funny that a game that's about like taking a bunch of sci-fi ideas and cramming it down used generative AI in its production. Also, there's a scientist in the game, like I said, who's like very optimization driven. The game kind of pokes fun at him. At a certain point, he's like, you guys just don't appreciate the joy of AI fueled eclectic jazz, which is like, they're making fun of this guy. And it's like, you guys are doing it. So
that's fun.
On
AI
the one hand,
jazz in particular is a funny,
right?
Considering how much the human touch is so critical to enjoying that.
Eclectic AI fueled jazz is just like the what was that old connection? Sorry, guys, to the internet, like the dial up sound. That's AI fueled eclectic jazz. That's what it sounds like.
I wish it's the same fucking sound every time.
So yeah, I just it's a real tough spot. I think on the one hand, don't do that. Like, you don't need to, right? Especially for text, like, just write whatever. Use lorem ipsum. We already have that. On the other hand, I get like there are economic reasons to need to do it. Like Danny pointed out, there are legitimate points to it. Maybe there's funding behind it in some cases. I don't really know what the specifics are, especially with 11-bit. But
I can see the reason why you would use it, like all over the place.
Everyone uses it. I haven't been to a restaurant in the last 4 months where I haven't overheard a conversation of somebody being like, yeah, I use AI for this. I'm like, you're a doctor. Don't say that.
I guess I'm saying is you're saying like you don't need to use it. You could use lorem ipsum. I think like there's one of the problems they run into, and like I'm not a game developer, so what do I know? But like in the conversation I'm having with people is that like previous versions of how this stuff was done was just gray boxing, right? And then certain games you do need to do an art pass at a certain stage to make sure that there's no considerations that need to be made before you go with the final look of stuff. And I do understand, like, the thing about making anything, and especially games that are so complex, is like any piece of software you can use to make the boring fucking work go faster, you want to do, especially on these smaller teams. Obviously, we're running into a problem where this is creating problems with junior positions, probably more than anything else. And the people who are on these smaller, like, games right now, unfortunately, are in this terrible economic position where the games that are doing really well, a lot of them are either from very, 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 very small teams, or teams that are full of folks that are of a particular, like, ability, like veterans of the industry or folks who've been around a long time. Those people don't want to have to fucking do all that work or manage 5 people to do all that work. That's why it's a bit like it's the conversations we often hear about outsourcing and about people like buying assets used to be the bad version of this as well, right? And I do think AI there's all of these other implications with machine learning or baking these brains or whatever it is that is about how much energy we're using and stuff like that. But again, it's sort of a selective argument we're making on that, and then people are taking airplanes and not complaining or doing this and this and this. But anyway, I think like I can see the use case for it, and ultimately it sounds very similar to like, I'm not saying I hate generative AI stuff. I think machine learning can be used in interesting ways, obviously ethical ways when it comes to like medicine or whatever that way. I think in other ways there's probably implications for it. I think the people running these companies are shitheads, and the way that they're trying to sell a lot of this stuff is on content churn bullshit or replacing people's jobs. So I get why the sensitivity exists, but I do think maybe there's an element of throwing the baby out with the bathwater if you're looking at a game like this, which is like from a small Eastern European team who've clearly made a very artistic game that is also fun, and like, let's cut them some slack. Maybe it's just a fucking screen. Like, who like, I get it.
That's how we get to AI generated video games, because you cut someone a slack 6 years ago. No, I'm just
if it's happening, it's happening. That's the problem.
Yeah.
If it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. Yeah. Like, I don't know if there is a commercial, like a market,
genie's out of a bottle, right? Like,
a market reaction to this that is going to be enough, that is going to from both a corporations are going to corporate and also from there are situations where creatives want to use it for something, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's not just content churn bullshit that's going to want to use this. There are going to be use cases where it makes sense to people, like in the same way that proc gen is. We didn't, and again, I'm trying really hard not to be a fucking, not to be a devil's advocate forgiver of this shit, but like this is one of these situations.
That A16Z money got to your head, man.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Fucking hell.
I think a lot of what you're saying is really valid. I think the sort of like bit of nuance I'd like to inject here is that for most imaginable use cases, if it is temp art that is like going in and is designated as temp art, it should be clockable as temp art. Like there are sort of like multiple passes where it's like do like a quick rough and dirty texture for something. We'll see how it looks, see how like the colors play with the world and see like cohesion and stuff. But I think that those things can be done very, very quick and dirty in a way that is like very clearly temp and still serves the purpose of seeing how they look in context. Whereas like, I don't know. I guess I would need to speak with someone who was using this technology to try to understand a use case where generative AI is saving that much time by generating a texture to put into the world, as opposed to like, like hopping into like a sprite and just having the right sort of like color palette and just drawing like the most rudimentary programmer art.
Imagine you were texturing a big fucking wall that had vines coming down on it. You ask a prompt engine to make that for you. It makes it. You put it in, or you spend 50 minutes drawing it yourself. Like that's the difference.
But there's like an unbelievable amount of Creative Commons, open source, public domain textures for vines, for rocks, for all of these things. You could layer them. I could take two of those and combine them in Photoshop in about 30 seconds. Or if it's a matter of like color scheme, I could just like grab a picture of rocks that's public domain and draw green lines on it if you want to see how it fits into the world. I struggle.
But you could also just say red. I'm not making the moral argument for it, but there is no argument using prompt for this stuff isn't orders of magnitude faster. And then we're only talking about one thing. If you're arting an entire place and you're just trying to get this done and you're behind schedule and it's Friday and you're working remote and you're a contractor, like this is how this stuff happens. It's not, the moral argument isn't the tip of the spear. It's all and then it slips through the cracks. You know what I mean? Like I'm with you. It's not hard, but this is how this stuff I feel like happens. Is it just?
But I guess I'm not making like a moral argument so much as I'm making like a production pipeline argument about like, I think the amount of time it saves in the minds of people who are advocating it is overstated, because I think the only reason is if it needs to be something that is like not clockable as temp art, and then it's hard for me to understand like what sort of intermediary role that plays, where it's like good enough to go in the game but it can't go in the game. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I
think people put this stuff in games. The only reason they don't is because they don't want to piss off gamers. I think otherwise they would. A lot.
Yeah,
I think
for sure.
But like if we're look, in fairness, I am making the argument that this was temp art. It mightn't have been. Like this might have been.
Yeah, who knows if they were it's just a reaction. Yeah,
or it's a texture artist that they hired that then went and did a bunch of it. We've heard that one a lot, where people have like, oh, we contracted this person to do a logo or whatever it was, and then it ended up being that they used a bunch of AI
and that's a
shit.
similar problem, right? Like Chris Pratt's done that documentary about the way that people are abused in Asian companies, where they're like outsourcing work and then it's outsourced again and it ends up there and these people are being abused. It's like they're bound to do that, right? They're bound to, if they have a workload they can't possibly hit, they're going to end up doing that. Yeah. So what do you even do if none of the text in this game was explicitly had a little prompt in it? What do you like? Are we going to have every single writer's work go through an AI checker, which is also inaccurate,
which
like,
is also driven by AI?
Exactly. Like there's no the genie's out of the bottle. There's no solution to this problem anymore. I feel like, other than just like incredibly strict monitoring of work, which is also not conducive to quality art. But then, like, what do you do? Like, we're so far removed from even having the debate anymore of whether or not this is morally good. It's just like, it's happening. What do we do about that? I don't know if we're there yet.
I think, and I might be wrong on this, and this is where I think I share the most common ground with most people on this, is that I I'm trying to think of a proxy that's like this, but like when I see that stuff, my toes curl. I just don't like it. Like artistically, like probably that has a lot to do with how it's made and why it's made and all that sort of shit as well. But it reminds me of like, no offense to anyone who listens to our podcast who like is one of those cartoonists under the Eiffel Tower or in Times Square. You know that art that people draw?
Like caricature
art? That stuff makes me sick too. I fucking don't like how that shit looks. It looks...
Somebody got a bad caricature done of him 25 years ago.
And there's a dude on the Santa Monica boardwalk right now listening to this, and he's like, I'm fucking unsubscribing.
Or we talked before about those guys with the fucking paint cans who make the like planets, right? Like the planets, that's what AI is to me. And I don't like it because of the process, because of the cheapness of it, because that stuff's throwaway as well. Like those guys are just spray canning at shit so it makes money and they can da-da-da-da-da. And so I think the one thing that is good, at least, is that people see that stuff and it just turns their stomach because it's so gross and weird and usually doesn't fit the rest of everything else. And that's going to be the saving grace of this stuff. The worry is, I think, if it gets past the point, if it crosses the uncanny valley of this is gross into this is undecipherable from AI art. Like I had that with Inzoi a bit, where it was actually really hard to spot the parts that were that way or this way. And then they had their own generator in the game for making textures, which if that was something that existed in Little Big Planet 15 years ago, I wouldn't have said boo about it. But with all of this stuff, and then I used it in the game and I was like, it kind of made what I want, the curtains I wanted it to make, or you know what I mean? So that's a moving target. I feel like once people aren't able to spot the gross thing, we'll forget about the gross thing a little bit.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think maybe that highlights the need for some degree of like expression of resistance against these things. Even like, I don't know, even if it is futile, even if like expressing resistance to these things is because they're clockable and then they become unclockable, and then, you know, it's not like it becomes this sort of like self-destructive witch hunt of like, you can't enjoy anything because you're like, is Zelda's like dress AI generated? Like, I can't fucking tell. And then you're at that point, you know, she's like, Link, you have to save me. And you're like, give me a fucking minute. I'm like examining your dress.
Yeah, hold on.
So yeah, I mean, it's like, it mustn't become a thing that destroys your ability to enjoy art. But at the end of the day, it is, you know, it is important to sort of like interrogate these issues and interrogate our relationships to them. And like you said, not to become like anti-AI reactionary where it's like, oh, they're using machine learning to like figure out how to cure cancer. You're like, that's fucking bad because it's like machines are bad. Then you're, you know, it's like the naturalistic fallacy where you're like, oh, if something is natural, then it's good. And if it's artificial, it's bad. And it's like, yeah, tell that to like poison ivy and aspirin.
I was talking to somebody recently about how we were chatting about how all of the right-wing people are anti-vax. And he was like, it's weird how that used to be a lefty thing. And I was like, did it? And he was like, think about all that what you just said, all the like natural therapy people, like the sort of the like extremo hippie stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about those people. They're like, I wonder, are they still like that, or are they? Are they?
You can find a lot of those people in Nevada City, California.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, look,
they're working at the crystal shop and they're selling dream catchers, and they're still pretty anti-vax. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Ultimately, it's like it is a weird discussion because we're in this moment of transition, and I think ultimately it's important to express resistance to these things. And I mean, I'll be curious where it goes, because, you know, you can go to fucking Midjourney and type in, you know, generate me a picture of Boss Baby, and it's like clearly like 1-to-1 creating like stolen DreamWorks assets. And so there's obviously a lot of litigation floating up in the air. This is all sort of being decided right now. So the reason I think it is important for sort of like public sentiment to be expressed about these things is because it's like, that is the background whether or not that affects these massive cases of litigation, it is the background cultural radiation, that zeitgeist of like how people feel about this stuff. It should be something that people are aware of. And so it doesn't mean you should like shit on on any dev that gets caught with GenAI, but it does mean that we should hold people accountable. So like both things can be true. The Alters can be one of the best games of this year, and you can also say to the dev, hey, I noticed you did this thing and I don't fuck with it. So like, if you want to retain me as a customer, I am not invested in this vision of how things are made.
100% agree.
Yeah, well
absolutely.
said. Well said. Yeah. The Alters available now for it's only $35 as well. That's not bad.
Yeah, it's cheapy.
Yeah.
And it's on Game Pass if they want to.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It would have cost
that's why it's
50.
so cheap. It would have been more expensive. What are you that mad about it, guys? It's affordable.
Listen, I know Jeff Bezos is a bad guy, but listen, I got
the
a
next
delivery
2 hours
later today, and I just ordered it during this podcast.
It's like, I don't like corporate consolidation or the reduction of the cost, the how much we value art, but Game Pass is a pretty good deal,
Yeah, Game Pass is the evil that needs to be defeated right now.
Yeah.
I love Game Pass. I don't understand.
Everyone loves Game Pass because it's too good to be true on the consumer side, but
it is too good to be true.
It's
it turns
rotting
out.
the industry.
See, that's the latest one. There was a report out earlier today saying that it is profitable, even if you take into account first party lost sales. So we don't know. We'll never know that one because that's going to be all internal Microsoft stuff. But also maybe Game Pass
Frank,
is profitable
can you call up Jeff?
Because they keep closing all of these fucking studios. The Romero Games thing, that was super upsetting last week.
But at least they're not closed, which
exactly.
also was improperly reported and not followed up on. But
initial reports of my death have been very exaggerated, says John
It's
Romero.
just Romero, just like I lived, bitch, in the hospital bed.
Yeah.
It turns out the initial reports were saying that the studio was shut and everyone was laid off. I think it's like something like 40, 50 people actually work at Romero Games, and then there's an extra 40 or 50 working as contractors. And then I also think that might be a mix of people who are remote and on location in Galway in Ireland. But yeah, it sounds like they legally. I'll just read the fucking statement that came out yesterday, just because it was a bit of an update clarifying some of the news. It says, we want to address recent reports regarding the status of Romero Games. These reports have contained inaccuracy. We feel it's important to set the record straight. 5 points here. First, the funding for our project was pulled and our game was cancelled. Due to confidentiality agreements, we cannot disclose the publisher's identity, though some may infer it from public information. What I suspect is going on there is that this was going through Bethesda and Microsoft pulled the money. That's what I think was probably going on there. As a result, we have now to reassess the entire staffing of our studio. Romero Games is not closed, and we are doing everything in our power to ensure that it does not come to that. Any suggestion otherwise is factually incorrect. Indeed, we were in the studio today to discuss next steps with the team. We have been contacted by several publishers interested in helping us bring the game across the finish line, and we're currently evaluating those opportunities. We appreciate the outpouring of support, and we'll share further updates as we are able. Romero Games. That doesn't answer a lot of questions. We don't know what this game was. If this was a game that was being funded through Microsoft and perhaps using an IP that is in their wheelhouse, that could be a big problem. If they were making a sequel to an existing IP that they don't own, maybe that's an issue. We don't know. We don't know what the makeup of the thing is, but they're apparently talking to some other folks about possibly trying to get the game over the finish line. But yeah, it's going to be very, very hairy situation over there, I suspect, for everyone, especially as the money tap has stopped running. So not cool to see. Next up, though, in our video game death walk, let's go to Jeremy, actually, to talk about Death Stranding 1.
The first one.
He's done it.
I never played it. The second one is out. People are loving it. It's getting high marks, even higher than the first one. And our conversation last week about Death Stranding, I don't know, it got me interested because like you seem to have like a pretty sort of like middling reaction to these games and think that maybe like all the hype is kind of overblown, or it's like an auteur theory thing where like everyone loves Kojima. How could this game must be great? Like maybe it's like an Emperor Wears No Clothes thing. And I've heard other people say they like love it and really connect to it, and it like touches them and moves their soul so anyway, I just fired up Death Stranding 1. I've had it forever. I've never played it in my life, and I've intentionally sort of stayed with blinders on to kind of preserve my experience for this moment. And I love this game.
You're in on
this game is
Really?
awesome.
How far are you?
I'm probably about a third of the way through the game. I've played quite a bit of it. Yeah, maybe like almost 10 hours, but I'm kind of cruising. Like I overpassed a few side missions where they're like, go build a post box. And I'm like, there's already a post box there that like Igor put up. I don't need to fucking.
I have to go check out Port Knot City or whatever.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is odd. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, that you were like, I don't know that anyone has like an authentic emotional connection to this story. And there are sort of like beats of it where I hear what you're saying, where it's like Norman Reedus, and it's like his mom is the president and she's like sick and she's the president, she's the last president of the United States. Like it feels a little bit like you're in kindergarten and there's like a creative writing assignment and they're like, Timmy, would you like to go in front of the class and share your story? It's like, yeah, up to hero and my mom's the president. And like, it's like, it is bizarre and contrived. I explained the story to my mom and she was like, I can't tell if that's like the best or worst thing you've ever told me about in video games. And it's this, I have this weird feeling. I said this in the Noclip Discord yesterday when people were talking about our Alex Garland discussion, that I feel like Kojima and Alex Garland are like the inverse of each other. Alex Garland is very good at creating like micro level narrative beats where his like characters and scenarios are interesting, but I feel like they yield no insight into larger themes or ideas. And Kojima will have like these characters that are so weird and cartoonish that most of them I just don't give a shit about, but somehow through these like bizarro characters, he's like touching my soul on like a philosophical or thematic level. And I feel like Death Stranding is like, it's exploring all these bizarre ideas about like death and what if death was like more tangible and less of just like a black box. And yeah, and about like connection and about a world where like connection is so like cold and removed from each other, and like what that means and how it transforms our relationship to other people. And I think these themes are like legitimately really like viscerally explored. I had this feeling when I used to see footage of Death Stranding when it first came out, I was like, oh, it's kind of boring that like you go from all the place to place and every town looks like fucking the same. And there's just a terminal where you see like a hologram and every NPC is just a hologram. And it's like, that's the point, is like those moments are so dry, and like even like a lot of the dialogue you get from people is so just sort of like rote, and they're like, oh, you're the delivery guy, you're the best delivery guy ever.
This is
I can't
the
believe
problem.
you're the delivery
I'm like,
guy.
is that a design choice or is that just because then Conan O'Brien turns up and you're like,
no, I know,
fuck man,
I
don't know.
The celebrity shit, I think, is I do think is over the line. The actor stuff, I do feel like.
Have you met Margaret Qualley yet?
I don't know who that is.
The actress?
Yeah, she's.
I know the name, but I don't know.
Have you seen the
I
lady
wouldn't
with
recognize
the?
her.
Oh, what's the new one? It's so good. The Substance.
The Substance she's in, yeah.
Oh, I have not seen The Substance.
Oh, you'd love you might like The Substance.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give it a shot. I know of The Substance,
Right.
but I have not encountered it myself. Regardless, I like, for all of my misgivings about using actors in games and that like games and movies are these two separate things and never the twain shall meet, I do feel like Kojima's like using the fuck out of Norman Reedus' acting ability in this game to generate like real and like heavy pathos. Especially his connection with BB has like this real like tender physicality that I think is a difficult thing to capture in a game without sort of like, I don't know. If someone could capture that with fucking PS1 graphics, I would be, you could knock me over with a fucking feather if someone did that. You know what I mean? If the like 17 pixels on a face were just getting closer to like a little square baby.
You'd be like, this is art, baby. We did it.
Yeah. I mean, I would still like it, but I'm a freak. But anyway, so yeah, a lot of the things that I sort of had reservations about when it came to this game and to sort of like contemporary Kojima methods, I feel like my skepticism has been deflated through just experiencing this game. Yeah, and that all is sort of just like preamble. The thing that I think is like the most interesting about this game is the obvious thing, which is just that like you go out of these, Amazon warehouse fucking cities and you're in like what is supposed to be America, but looks more like the like Icelandic foothills. And it's just gorgeous. It's like,
and you're playing it on PS4?
PC.
No, I'm playing on PC.
Oh, PC. Okay.
It's not even because obviously like it's the Quixel mega scans are looking, the fucking 8K rock scans are looking good.
Not
but that's
much
not
else to render. Just Norman and a bunch of land. So yeah,
that's true. But it's not even the fidelity of it, though. I do think that helps sort of like augment the awe factor or whatever. It's just that it's this feeling. I talked about this when we played Peak, and when we talked about Peak, is that there are not very many games that do that capture the feeling of being out in the world and sort of like route finding. I find that video games are either so open-ended that route finding is trivial, like in Elden Ring. I love Elden Ring, but it is one of my least favorite Souls games because it doesn't feel as tightly designed as the sort of like narrow corridors of something like Dark Souls 2. So I even like Dark Souls 2 better than Elden Ring, which I know most people would disagree with. But like I find that Death Stranding its world is so well designed that it feels like a totally open world, but it really does have like these corridors of passage that it routes you into. But they're not tangible as like walls or boundaries. Like you are route finding within these places, and it captures the feeling of like actually going out and backpacking and traversing through the world. And that's the macro level of it, but the micro level of just like keeping your balance and looking at actual rocks and like where you're stepping and being careful about all these things. It is a mechanic that transforms the physical space of the game into like such a core and visceral element of the gameplay that like I'm always hyper aware of my spatial position in this world and my like kinetic relationship to these objects in the world in a way that like most game worlds are kind of just there. Most game worlds are like set decoration for the experience. I mean, there are exceptions, obviously. You're playing Gears of War and you see a piece of concrete and you can hide behind it and stuff. That is a lesser version of this. But this is just like every tree and rock and crevice and bump is I'm constantly
streams, like trying to get your ladder across rivers and across gaps in the mountains and stuff. Yeah. It's very much about that sort of. It's about touching grass.
It's the touching grassinest game I've ever played. And it just, I don't know. And it also, obviously, the async multiplayer stuff just reminds me a lot of playing Dark Souls for the first time. Like this feeling of being both like togetherness and also isolation.
Can you believe that game was pre-COVID?
No, it is. It's
like,
fucking,
isn't that crazy?
Dude, that's the thing is like, the levels of consciousness that Kojima is operating on, I don't know how aware he is of the worlds that he is working in, but boy howdy is this man channeling some fucking zeitgeist on like I don't know, he's firing on all cylinders, and it's like I that's not even me just like hyping him up. I'm not a Kojima fanboy. I do have a Koji Pro t-shirt, but that's irrelevant. I bought it before bought it before Death Stranding was out because I was like, I want to support this guy.
You should get a sticker for the back of the shirt that says that, just so people know.
Yeah.
I will say the most fun I enjoyed playing Death Stranding 1. I said as much in my review. There was a lot of, the moment to moment of that game. I really enjoyed I completed it and liked it. I think Death Stranding 2 for me, and I need to play more of it for sure. I think the most interesting aspect of Death Stranding was the first like half of Death Stranding 1 because it's like introducing all this weird shit, and I really like the antagonist design, the beach things. I think they're really cool. All the blood grenade stuff, stealthy play is what I like to do, which is great. And the combat in Death Stranding 1 was pretty poor if you weren't doing stealth, which is really good. Please complete this game, and we can talk about the narrative again, because like I think the longer they talk, the more story this game does, the less sure I was that they had any idea what the fuck this thing was about. It may have the worst ending cutscene in video. Like it was like the fucking, it is, the ending of that game is fucking art in like I was like, this isn't if Neil Breen had a budget. This is like fucking insane. But like maybe me saying that is also overblowing it a bit. But yeah, I don't know.
It's a shame the narrative. Finish it. Sorry, it's a shame that the narrative doesn't connect, because like it sounds like, I haven't played Death Stranding. I don't know. I know about it, through osmosis. Everyone talks about it. I just listened to that Chris Plant interview he did with Dunkey, which is the craziest sentence for his show Post Games. It's really good. And they were talking about that game a bunch, but it's a shame that the narrative for Death Stranding doesn't connect. But it sounds like the exploration and the world stuff is like all like, it's so good that do you think it overpowers that at all? Is that Or is the
with
narrative
me,
so bad that it
Jeremy
gets in the
thinks that the narrative he's been enjoying. I mean, I think I said last week is I think world building for Kojima is really good. I don't think any of his games have good stories. I don't think Metal Gear Solid is a good fucking story. I think it is interesting bosses. I think it is interesting setup. I think the character, the enemy design makes these things compelling. I think I fucking love like top 10 video game characters. Probably half of the ones I would pick would be like enemies from the Metal Gear Solid games. They're fucking amazing. But the stories are ridiculous. Like I don't fucking give it. Like I think it's funny. Like, oh look, there's a fucking arms dealer with a monkey with a fucking Coke can. Like, I'm not connecting to any of this shit. At the end of the game, where they're like doing the fucking fight at the end, and they're it's like, no, moments are cool, and the gameplay is cool, and the characters are cool. It's like an action movie. You know what I mean? These games are based on like, Snake Plissken. It's action star, cool guy shit. Like the stories in action movies aren't good, but the action is good and the characters are good and cool shit happens. And so I don't think that his writing or the narrative in any of the games are good,
I think some of the big boss stuff transcend, because I largely agree that like a lot of Kojima's stuff is just like 80s American action movie passed through like 90s 2000s heady anime filter, where it's like, what if John McClane was in like Serial Experiments Lane? That's like what Kojima, Serial
So
Experiments
specific.
McClane. That's a little hybrid I'm working on. But like, there are exceptions. Like the ending of Metal Gear Solid 3 makes me fucking weep. It's beautiful and like has legitimately moving character dynamics, and it sets it up really well. Like there are moments where it transcends, but I will be interested to see if by the end of Death Stranding 1, I'm like, oh no, Kojima is Alex Garland. He's just the Japanese Alex Garland. Who knows? But yeah, so far, I agree with you so far. A lot of the story is just, every time Guillermo del Toro calls me, I'm like, shut the fuck up and leave me alone in this, like, I don't know. But, like, that's how I feel when anyone calls my cell phone in real life.
and I didn't need the story to be good in this game either. Like, I wasn't going into this game looking for a good story, and I'll happily play a game. Like, Half-Life doesn't have a good story. You know what I mean? Like, Half-Life Alyx is a good story, but, like, Half-Life doesn't have a great story. Half-Life 2 is a better story, but, like, I'm happy playing games that don't have great stories, so it didn't bother me. But I just, when people talk about how, I just recoil with the auteur stuff, because I think like so much of the beauty of these games is the art, and that's not his bag. That's not what he does.
Are you telling me Kojima didn't draw every pixel on
right?
the screen?
But like I don't know how much of an art director. He's got very, very strong people who've worked with him for a long time who are really good at making all that sort of stuff, and that's a lot of heavy lifting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah, the aesthetic qualities of this definitely do a lot of the heavy lifting. I'll be curious to see how I feel after sitting with it a lot longer, because it is a game that tests your patience, and that is part of what I think is interesting about it, is just like sinking into that world and just like accepting that you're just on this long fucking sludge of a walk. And it's trite now because everyone said it, but it is, there is a meditative quality to it. But yeah, I'll be curious to see. The story stuff is fucking weird, but I'm hoping that there's a point to it. So I will, if I get to the last cutscene and feel the same way as you felt, I will be a little disappointed. But ultimately, it feels to me like it's sort of all of this like fucking mess is like gesturing at ideas that I find legitimately compelling. The thinking about the themes of the story to me is the way in which I'm interfacing with this narrative.
Yeah. Which that's fair enough. That's mouth washing is similar, in that. Well, I guess not a good story, but
it's more explicit. Yeah.
Yeah. You get to talk around. Yeah. I feel like I'm just like fucking asshole on this podcast. I'm like saying AI is not that bad and Kojima's not good at making games.
You're washed, bro. Give it up.
That's it. I've turned into my greatest enemy. Why does anyone listen to this podcast? It's because of you three guys. That's why. Death Stranding 1. I'll play more Death Stranding 2. How about that? Maybe I just needed to get it off my chest.
Yeah.
I just keep rage watching things like Warfare.
Dude, just watch On the Beach instead. Then you don't have to play a 90-hour video game.
Dude, I watched that Final Destination movie.
That's almost On the Beach.
The new Final Destination movie is the best Final Destination movie.
Whoa, impossible.
It is fucking hilarious. My wife had never watched the Final Destination, and I was like, oh, you are going to have so much fun. These games are silly. Everyone dies. It's you cannot, it's nonsense. There is a part in that movie though, it was Tony Todd's final role, and there's a part in it, and he's very clearly sick when he's in it, and he plays a character I mean, he's in a lot of those movies. He was in the first one, but he plays like a sort of a character in this, which I think is a new character, or maybe they developed the old one. I don't know, but he's part of that franchise as he is the Candyman, right? And he's and he basically like in the scene he is talking about his impending death, and he's sick, and like, this is, life is about blah blah blah, and it's like so touching because you like, if you know that he died soon after this, it's like really like emotional and touching, and he like almost looks at the camera as he's doing it. And somebody said on my replies on social media that they let him write his final bit, and it's like very, very sweet. And then it goes back to a movie about like folks being fucking just chopped into pieces and their brains they're like, death is everywhere and hilarious.
Yeah,
it's fucking mad.
That's
Good
a
stuff.
wild tone switch.
Here I am. Kojima's bad, AI's good, Final Destination is pure cinema. I have turned into, clearly I've got some
You're
sort
so
of fucking-
40.
I'm
Give it up.
I know, I'm not even 40 yet. What the fuck is wrong with me? Tony
You
Hawk's
need
Pro
to cleanse
Skater 3,
yourself.
Yeah,
with the-
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 based.
man. Best game, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Games are shit.
You
now.
should just watch every movie from the golden age of Japanese cinema and cleanse your soul.
I
and body.
should. You know what? Maybe I'll do that because that's I have a huge blind spot for all that stuff. You guys talk about it.
Go
a
watch
lot.
Harakiri. I've said it on this podcast. I say it on the Noclip Discord every 3 months or so.
He got me to
Everyone go
watch it.
Harakiri.
It worked.
It's fucking
Watching those movies
amazing.
is like ego death for media consumption. It's great.
Oh no.
And do not watch the Takashi Miike remake, or I will recoil in horror.
So the
and scold you.
1962 version I should watch.
The 1962 version of Harakiri, it is a strong contender for my number one favorite movie of all time.
Number 2,
Yeah.
Boss Baby.
The box art for this, the key art is fucking aggressively great. The one I'm looking at, just a dude
look it
fucking grimacing like.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Fuck you up. Okay.
It's so good. I think you will love it. I think you'll like it, or like it'll be like an 8 or 9 for the first half, and then you'll be like, "This is the greatest
Okay.
movie of all time" as it crescendos.
I'm gonna have a Robert Frost moment later where I'm Harry Carey's on my TV, and then F1 the movie is on a trip to the cinemas over here, and that will be it. That'll be the litmus test for if Danny's washed or not. Okay.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, that's it. There's no
Although nothing is more 40 than watching 1960s black and white films.
maybe. But also, nothing's more dad than watching like a movie with no plot that's just Brad Pitt driving around in a Formula
So-
2 car.
The middle point of those two would be Gran
Right.
Turismo. What did you think about that?
The Gran Turismo movie.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I knew a lot about the story, so there's parts of it that they messed up, like arguably the biggest thing that happened in that guy's career was the crash that happened a couple of years later, where somebody died in the crowd. Like it was a really
that's
terrible.
based on a real person, right? Yeah.
That really, have you seen the movie?
No.
There's like a throwaway bit in the third act where they're like, oh yeah, and he had that terrible crash and like a fucking wheel went into I think it was at the Nordschleife or somewhere, and it killed a spectator, and like that was pretty messed up. The Gran Turismo movie is completely fine. It was directed by what's his face?
Love that guy.
District 9.
Neil
Blomkamp.
Blomkamp, or-
Yeah,
Blomkamp,
Blomkamp.
yeah.
So they shot it interestingly, and it's about a real guy. It's about the guy who became a real driver through playing Gran Turismo, the proto Jimmy Broadbent, as it were. And he, yes, and it's very PG-13, like kind of made for a younger audience. It's completely fine. It's definitely not like cinema or anything, but it's no fucking Final Destination Bloodlines. You know what I mean?
Good point. Yeah.
What is though?
But it's all right. We forgot to put up the Minecraft episode. That's going to be coming out soon. No, we'll
That's
take
on
it.
me.
No, we'll take it as a group. I didn't remind you either. I was too busy
Sure.
enjoying.
Then let's
the
not
other
group
stuff.
it. Let's you and I forgot.
That's also,
Jeremy and
okay.
Fred.
That's fair. That's fair. Let's do that. So we will be getting that out soon.
This week.
Okay, this week. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So for patrons, Speaking
not
of
to
cinema,
overhype it, but I was one of my favorite podcasts that we've recorded.
Jeremy
ever.
drops the funniest bar perhaps of any podcast episode in that one. I
I
will not say
that I
what
was
it is.
unreasonably proud of.
Yeah, it's so good. You need to give us however much dollars a month in order to experience it.
Please make sure that you have a full box of popcorn in front of you for the chicken jockey moment in the podcast as well. That's very
Throw
There
it
are
all
two
over
of
your
them.
living room.
exactly. Those are the games we played this week. Frank, we got some emails here.
Yeah, you can send an email into podcast@noclip.video or in our Patreon Discord. We had a good email from Will about canceled games. I was very sad to hear about the cancellation of Dream Settler, just as I think every fan of Hypnospace Outlaw was. The interview with Jay Tholen was one of my favorite NoClip moments, and I'm glad y'all talked about it a little bit on the pod a few weeks back. It made me wonder, do you guys have any canceled games from over the years that you still think about or wish would have seen the light of day? Or any vaporware games that you still have a shred of hope will get finished one day? I'm still crossing my fingers for Beyond Good and Evil 2 almost 20 years later.
Oh, what's that game from the Campo Santo team that like is never going to come out?
The Valley of the
anymore?
Gods.
Valley of the Gods. Yeah, that's the one for me.
Hilariously, that still has a like a coming soon or something in the.
It has, I think it's ETA 2019 is
Yeah.
what it says.
No,
or-
December
or
2029. Yeah.
2029.
Hilarious.
2019.
Yeah, that is not a game that is coming out. We can fairly easily say at this stage. Yeah, they all got brought into Valve, and then some of the team left, and then other ones have obviously, they're on the Half-Life Alyx project and all that stuff. So yeah, who knows? But I suspect not. Star Wars 1313 is obviously a big one over the years. I remember one stage we were trying to get gameplay from it, and then balked when sort of the Disney stuff happened, and it was trickier to maybe lawyer up for that particular one. I have reached out to Jay, by the way. I know he's trying to get stuff about Dream Settler out there, and I just sent him our condolences on the project, and if there's anything that NoClip can do to help, get that stuff out there, let us know. I think he's trying to figure out what to do exactly. But yeah, that was a super sad one. I think it was episode 37 of the podcast was when we chatted to Jay Tholen.
Wow.
I think it was me and Frank on that one. Yeah, it was. Yeah, 4 years ago. Crazy. We look like babies. Yeah. What? Anything else? You guys canceled stuff?
There's Rockstar's Agent, which
Oh,
they're
yeah?
still working on. Probably no.
Well, that team's
Never lose hope.
gone. It's Studio Bondi, right? Team Bondi down in Australia.
Recent one, Earthblade,
Yeah.
the developers of Celeste. What is the name of their studio? OK Games?
Yeah,
Is that
something
what
like
it
that.
is?
Yeah.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
They canceled Earthblade, sadly. But the
You're hype on the artist's new project, though, right?
yeah, Pedro Medeiros and another developer whose name is escaping me at the moment are working on. What is that fucking game called? The name keeps slipping out of my brain. It's like even tide, ever deep.
That sounds
Ever
right.
Quest.
All of those sound right.
I don't know. I'll look it up. We'll put it in the description, or I'll comment with it or something. Neversoft.
Neversoft.
Those are the people that made the Guitar Hero games, isn't it?
It's Neverway. Neverway is actually the name. Okay. Yeah, Neverway. It looks good from Cold Blood. But yeah, also Lena Raine's soundtrack for Earthblade dropped, and it's fantastic. So if you're feeling sad about the cancellation of Earthblade, just go listen to the soundtrack and play it in your mind. Why don't you use your imagination for once?
I didn't know about the split in the team. I'm just reading their post. They have it here. Earthblade final update on exok.com. Sounds like
okay, that's the name. Okay.
Noel and whoever was writing this post and Pedro split, and then I guess it was an issue over who owns the IP rights to Celeste. Okay, well that sucks. Maybe it was.
It's heartbreaking. The project, I read that a while ago, but from my recollection, the project also was experiencing sort of like a little bit of identity crisis, and it's not like a smooth development that then they had an interpersonal crisis that blew up the whole thing. It was a game that they were struggling to sort of to find the way with it.
Yeah.
So
That's a bummer.
You know what else I'm sad about? Perfect Dark. I'm sad about
Yeah.
Everwild. I'm sad about like,
Whatever
just keep going.
Arcane Austin
Yeah,
we're
the new
working on.
ZeniMax game.
The Romero,
yeah.
the new MMO from the very successful Elder Scrolls Online folks, ESO folks in
Oh, yeah.
Baltimore.
Yep.
Romero
Sounded good.
Games,
Jerks.
hopefully. Yeah, exactly. No shortage of those. Way to end the podcast on a bummer, Will. Thanks for that.
I also wanted to say there was a Hideki Kamiya. I was very excited for Scalebound.
Oh,
It
yeah.
premiered at Xbox like a decade ago. It was like an Xbox One game. But they said ultimately like that was their internal decision. They just like couldn't find the fun factor or make it work. But I was like, the stuff they showed looks like it was a hack and slash game where you ride a dragon. I was like, yeah.
Hey, man, you've always got
They-
Drakan Order of the Flame. You know?
Wow.
You know?
Pull. You've always got Lair.
And Dragon.
Heavenly
Dragon
Blade.
Guard.
Jesus, Lair. Yeah, use the fucking PlayStation pad to fly your dragon around. Yeah. Whoa, now we're gaming.
Whoa.
You look like a kid on a 90s ad for video games playing Lair. It's good
That's
stuff.
how my dad would play Mario Kart when we were kids.
Hey, man.
He would,
It
like,
makes
do
you
a
go
lot of-
faster if you
Get him
turn
Lair.
into it. Everyone knows this.
Get him
He was-
Lair.
Actually, that's where
Imagine how
that's
good
where they
he is.
got the idea. Is Sony called out my dad and they were like, "What do you think's next?" And he's like, "Oh, what if you could like lean really hard while you're playing Mario Kart?" They're like, "Well, we can't get Mario Kart, but we can do the leaning."
How about
thing."
dragons? He's like Yoshi? No. Thanks for the email, Will. Podcast and noclip.video if you want to send those emails in. We have some quick looks and indie game recommendations hitting the channel this week. We're going to do a Tony Hawk's 3 and 4 one. Jeremy and Frank, you're recording one after this? You're recording some Horse Girls?
Yeah,
Yes.
Uma Musume, pretty derby. I would love to show off.
And then
And I would love to see it.
and then we do have, there's a bunch of other stuff, but a lot of it's not coming out till next week. So we're a little bereft of indie stuff this week, but we'll be back next week with some others. Should we do an Alters one maybe? Or we're a little bit behind on that one, are we?
Yeah, probably been a bit.
Maybe.
It's cool though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Check out the Alters. The Alters.
Can I would like to drop a very soft recommendation for a game that I played a little bit of and decided that I want to wait until it's way more developed because it's early access. Project Silverfish is a stalker-like. I played a tiny bit of it. I want to wait until it's more fully baked because it is. There's so much going on, but I just want to. You only get one first experience with a game like that. That's a sandbox game, and I want to wait to have my experience when there's more of it existing. But what I played of it, very cool, very interesting, very sandboxy, stalker-inspired game with It's furry stalker, but it's not just furry stalker.
Love it. Hey, that's
Furries
enough
are
for
on
me.
fire.
Yeah.
They're making great games, man.
Furries
furries are
on
cooking.
fire. I've been playing an indie game that I can't talk about that's really good, and that's annoying. It's not out yet. I don't think it's coming out until next year either, so it's a real pain in the ass.
Game. What?
An independent game.
StarCraft Ghost.
That's
Holy
it.
shit, finally?
Cancel game. It's coming out. Bonus pod from Minecraft will be up, so head over to patreon.com/noclip if you want to listen to that. Chicken Jockey. We'll be back soon with more video game documentaries. Watch the opening. Watch the Jesse, stop.
Mouthing it. I can't. I don't want to
It's
ruin.
so
the plot.
hard to do a podcast about Jack Black without us all just going, yeah, yeah, fucking yeah, fucking ridiculous.
Start scatting.
It's the exact don't criticize Israel. That's it. All right, we'll leave the podcast there. See you later, folks. Have a good one. Bye.